All right, this is our project on types of variables by Mackenzie King and Shelby Carroll. So what is a variable? A variable is a characteristic being measured that varies among persons, objects, or events being studied. Example would be age is a variable because it can come in many different types of values. Specific types of variables are used to find causation or correlation within the study. Descriptive variables. So descriptive variables are those that can be reported on without relating them to anything in particular. Demographic variables describe a specific population. An example of this would include population size, location, job title, age, and income level. Categorical variables result from a selection from categories such as agree or disagree. Other examples of this would include gender and ethnicity. Nominal and ordinal variables are also categorical. Numeric variables give a number such as age. To understand the variables in an experiment, it's important to understand the types of experiments. In a true experiment, subjects are randomly assigned to the treatment conditions. The only difference in the groups would be due to chance. Quasi-experiments occur when the subjects have not been randomly assigned to the treatment condition, because quasi is seeming or resembles. Experiments that take advantage of natural occurrences are quasi-experiments. For example, comparing achievement level of firstborn children with that of latter-born children, or comparing student performance at two schools, one of which has a lower student-teacher ratio. The experimenter is unable to assign subjects to treatment level because the subjects are already in pre-existing groups. So for dependent and independent variables, we're going to start out by showing a little video.
To movie, math, and science, and independent and dependent variables. How are independent and dependent variables different? An independent variable, also called the manipulated variable, has the ability to stand alone. It is not changed by the other variable. It is the variable you are changing or manipulating. The dependent variable, also called the responding variable, depends on the other variable. It is the variable you are measuring. Let's look at some examples. It is summertime. You would like to know the color of the car impacts the inside temperature of the car. You find 4 cars of different colors and park them outside. You measure the inside temperature of each car every 30 minutes for 2 hours. The color of the car is your independent variable. It will not change based on the outside temperature, and you have 4 different colors. You are changing this variable by choosing the different colors. The change in the temperature inside each car is your dependent variable. It may vary according to the car's color. You will be measuring this variable by taking the temperature inside the car every 30 minutes for 2 hours. Let's look at a couple other examples.
All right. Back to the PowerPoint. Even though I just started over. Alright, so dependent variables are the events studied and expected to change when the independent variable is manipulated. And you can have more than one dependent variable in a study. The dependent variable reflects the output resulting from manipulation of the independent variable. And dependent variable types include nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio, depending on the type of data gathered. Interestingly enough, it's different that you can have more than one dependent variable. I guess an example of this would be body weight, as in just a number in pounds, and your body fat percentage, which is going to be not in pounds and a different number. Those could both be dependent variables that are both being measured at the same time. Independent variables are the variable representing the value being manipulated by the researcher. So in a true experiment or randomized controlled trial of fall prevention, the participant is randomly assigned to one of 2 independent variable conditions, either experimental, which is a fall prevention program, or control, which would be usual course of care. And then independent variables, also interestingly enough, have levels. So a study done on the reduction of pain with medication could have 3 potential levels: no medication, 1 pill, and then 2 pill. Extraneous and confounding variables. So I also have another video.
But alas, life and experiments are rarely perfect. Extraneous variables are often present in an experiment and may or may not compromise the validity of the experiment. An extraneous variable that affects the validity of an experiment is referred to as a confounding variable. Now, to better understand what I mean, let's take an experiment that's been done in grade schools for generations. Let's see whether sunlight makes plants grow. You start your light growth experiment by placing one plant in the sunlight and one in the darkness, and then you wait. When you see that one of your plants is doing better than the other, you automatically assume that it's due to the sunlight, but you may be wrong. Did you accurately measure the water given to each? Or how about the soil and air temperature, or the size of the containers, and even the location? These are all extraneous variables, extra variables that may or may not interfere with your experiment. Now, if any of these extraneous variables impact your results, then we call it a confounding variable. Think of all the extraneous and confounding variables that may be present in a psychological experiment, especially those involving humans. Then you'll get an idea of why it's so important to recognize extraneous variables, especially the confounding ones.
All right. Back to the PowerPoint. It's probably going to have to start from the very beginning. Let's use this as a time to review. So back to extraneous and confounding variables. They can also be called lurking variables, and extraneous variables are undesirable variables that influence the relationship between the variable that an experimenter is examining. These variables confound or interfere with the research results. Confounding variables can affect your findings. However, with strict rules and precautionary measures, confounding variables can do less harm. So the control variable is often a no treatment or a usual treatment. So an example of this would be an Alzheimer's client might be in a control group where no treatment is given, or they might be in a group where the usual treatment is given, but either of those groups would be compared to the new treatment group, such as a different medication, which would be the independent variable in a study. So we have some questions. The independent variable changes the dependent variable, true or false? That answer is going to be true. The changes that occur in an experiment that are directly caused by the experimenter or you are called independent variables. So as a, more application type question, an OT performs a study to see if doing ADLs in the morning, because that's a more natural time to be doing ADLs, increases your FIM score. What could be potential extraneous variables? So some of the extraneous variables that we came up with were whether or not they had eaten breakfast, their emotional state in the morning, are they a morning person, are they not a morning person, what time was their medication, if they had any given to them, how long does it take for the medication to kick in for the patient, things like that. And then another question we have is, why is understanding variables important for occupational therapists in general? And that's just something we'll kind of leave you guys with. Here are some of our references. We definitely had to take references from a lot of different places just because for us it was kind of hard to find all of the different types of variables. They're all very different and they're also very correlated. So it was kind of hard for us to find one specific reference for all of the different types of variables that we've discussed today. But we do have some top resources. And these include, Professor Getty's PowerPoints, just an extra little YouTube video, and a website that kind of lists all of the types of variables in a very general layman's terms. And then that concludes our presentation. Thank you guys so much.